I said you're a top 5. Nick Miller is a top 5 sitcom character of all time, and I firmly believe that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm a TV guy, so growing up, I cared more about TV than movies. Being on a sitcom that meant something was always kind of the main goal. For me, it was Cheers, it was Roseanne, it was Taxi. It was a certain type of American sitcom that we watched growing up and my whole family liked, and I wanted to be on that. New Girl, playing Nick in the moment of New Girl, he never felt like a character that anybody outside of the inner circle cared about. You know what I mean by that is I could do Nick and improvise my ass off and make Max and Zoe and Damon laugh, but Nick wasn't the character of New Girl. It was there's Zoe, and then Schmidt was the breakout. And then, Nick and Winston started getting their wings as the show went on.
Really?
But so I think so.
See, I was right away. Nick was my guy. Nick, I think Nick. I find Nick to be an exceptionally relatable character, which probably says bad things for me. But but like everything about him, I'm like, oh, this guy, this is hilarious. Yeah. This is exactly how my brain works. This is perfect. I never thought that. I never felt like Nick was a secondary character.
I would be interested to hear what your castmates would say about that, because I think you're just being humble because it's your character. I think he's the guy.
Well, I'll put it like this. Neither Nick or Winston was ever nominated for anything.
Yeah,
well neither was Always Sunny. That we always say that every year with
Always Sunny never was?
Never been nominated for a thing.
For nothing. Not a thing.
Isn't that wild?
It's insane. They're on year 15.
And then this year, Lil Dicky Dave gets nominated for nothing, and
is that true? No, I don't want. I'll be honest with you. I was saying that more just to try to create an argument for the sake of bullshitting. I've never given a shit about the awards. I've never watched them before I was in this business in post. But that's shocking about It's Always Sunny. I worked with Rob on Mythic Quest this year.
Yeah, that was a great show, but your episode was my favorite episode. It was unbelievable.
Was so deep and so different, and such a departure from the rest of that season. But I mean, that was some shit. You guys did some acting in that. Man.
I got to give Rob a lot of credit. I never knew Rob, so here's the truth of me doing that episode. They shot It's Always Sunny on the lot near us at New Girl, and New Girl did insane hours. So we were doing 12-hour days, 5 days a week to make 22 minutes of an improvised show, or a show not fully improvised, but a bit show. And they were rapping at lunch every day. So my big thing while I was on New Girl was I really wanted to make it one of those shows that we were the fun show. Mm-hmm. But what happened was we were all burning out. Cast, crew, writers, everybody, Liz. So my whole thing was, how do we do a 7-hour day? Do basic coverage so that we are like It's Always Sunny, because if so, we can maybe be on for 10 years because there is an energy that maybe we could keep this monster going. And so I always wanted to experience working with Rob or Charlie or Glenn. And then this Mythic Quest came along and Rob was directing it. And I thought, great, I finally get to see how Rob moves and how fast he goes. And I told my wife, I left the first morning and I was leaving at 6 a.m. And she goes, when do you expect to be home? And I'm like, with Rob fucking directing, I'll be home at noon.
Yeah, right.
We get there and it's going kind of slow. And I go to Rob at 10 a.m. when we're still on the first scene. I'm like, my guy, Always Sunny, Rob. What's going on here, Big Daddy? What are you thinking? And he goes, yeah, I'm really excited to shoot this one differently than I've ever done, especially this episode. It's going to be a movie. And the voice in my head, literally out loud to myself, it just said, you fucking dummy, you always lose. But I just had to lean it. And then he goes, not only that, but we're going to shoot out in Long Beach. So I'm like, oh, Long Beach for 14 hours. So I got some shady hotel room nearby in a Econo Lodge. And I'm like, oh, fuck it. But I'm glad I did it because he's a monster talent. And I'm proud of being part of that.
It came out incredible. It is it's a little movie, I mean, it's some deep shit.
Rob's a creative monster. I didn't know that about him. I haven't watched Sunny as religiously as others. I've checked it out for the bits, and I think it's funny. But working with him on that, he's got a very clear vision. And I'm like, all right, this dude will be he's the real deal.
I never realized how much he had to do with I knew he was a creator of Sunny. I know, the whole story about like the first episode cost $200 to shoot and all that stuff. But I didn't realize. I think he was on Mark Maron's podcast, and I listened to it, and I didn't realize he does everything. Like he's the showrunner of Sunny, which I didn't even know what a showrunner was until he explained it. But he's like the showrunner, the writer, producer. Like he does all of it.
He's mostly also the studio. He's a super smart guy. Like he's playing the game. Like when I first started working with Joe Swanberg, I loved working with him so much because we were doing indies and we were self-financing them, and he was viewing the game differently. And talking to Rob's doing that, but he's doing that with major networks, and he's sitting at the table with network heads as a writer, as a showrunner, as an actor, as a director, as essentially the studio at times. It's really impressive, and it's not really talked about.
I had no idea.
Not a single nomination.
And I'm showing up on his set, and I'm not even fully memorized. I'm like, dude, we both have a lot on our plate. You're doing that. And last night, I should have done my homework more, but I was like watching TV. Have you seen like Listing Impossible? Because that's what